Hello everyone and welcome back to the Testo video guide series. In this guide I'll show you the main concepts of test scripts and the ways to create a virtual machine in Testo Framework. First, let's cover a few basic concepts. With Testo you can create test scripts with virtual machines in them. It means that you control not the source code, not the application itself, but the whole system consisting of one or more virtual machines. Thanks to that, you can create true end-to-end tests and check not only the standalone application under test, but how it would work in a specific surrounding as well, inside an operating system, a network, alongside an antivirus, and so on. Test scripts are basically just text files with some code written in Testo-lang language. Testo-lang mainly consists of two big parts: virtual infrastructure declarations and declarations of actions to be applied to this infrastructure. The virtual infrastructure consists of virtual machines, virtual networks, and virtual USB sticks. Together, those entities build up a virtual test bench. The actions to be applied to this test bench are located in tests, which we'll see in a moment. Testo creates and deploys the virtual test bench automatically. All you need to do is to declare the virtual resources, and Testo will take care of the rest. Let's wrap up the theory and move on to the practice. In this guide we'll cover the following questions. First, how to declare a virtual machine in Testo-lang, and second, how to erase the created machines. Let's see what we have. I am currently using the Ubuntu Desktop 20 operating system. I've installed the Testo Framework Free Edition, as well as Virtual Manager. I also set up the Testo-lang syntax highlighting. If you haven't done these steps already, you should check out the previous guides. In other operating systems, Testo usage remains pretty much the same. I have downloaded the Ubuntu Server 16 installation image, which now resides in the Downloads folder on my computer. We'll need it later in this video guide. I've also manually created the handmade virtual machine and installed Windows 7 operating system on it. Right now you should not pay attention to it. We'll come to it later. All the work will take place in the myscript.testo file, which is located in the work folder. So let's move on to the first issue: how to create a virtual machine in Testo Framework. There are two ways to create a virtual machine in Testo Framework: create a blank machine from scratch and create a machine based on existing one. You can also combine these two ways in a single machine, but that's quite a rare case. We'll see the idea of the combined way in the end of the guide, just to get the idea. Let's open the myscript.testo file. Right now it's empty, but not for long, as we're gonna add a declaration of our first blank virtual machine. The declaration starts with the machine keyword, followed by a set of attributes. A couple of those attributes are mandatory. The CPU's attribute, number of virtual CPU's cores. The RAM attribute, amount of RAM. Take a look at the way the memory amount is specified, with special literals. At least one disk section. A disk section determines the disk settings for the virtual machine. There can be multiple disks in a virtual machine, so to distinguish them, they must have a unique name. The only one disk in our case is called main. Its value is a block of nested attributes. We need only one nested attribute, the size of the disk. With the size attribute, we instruct Testo to create a blank disk, and thus a blank virtual machine. The rest of the attributes are optional, but we're still gonna add just one more, the ISO attribute. Its value is going to be a path to the Ubuntu Server ISO image, which we've prepared earlier. This attribute allows to mount ISO images into the virtual machine's CD-ROM. Let's run the script. To do that, we call the Testo interpreter in test run mode and give our script file as an input. We can see that nothing's happened. There is no test to be run, and there was no virtual machine created. Why does this happen? The reason is that in Testo-lang, a declaration of a virtual machine doesn't mean its actual creation. For a machine to be created, it must be referenced in at least one test. So let's create our first test. A test is basically a set of commands. Each command consists of two parts: a virtual entity's name, for now we can see it as virtual machine's name, and a set of actions to be applied to this entity. You can reference multiple virtual entities in a single test, for example multiple machines. We'll have a lot of practice with tests throughout the video guides, so don't worry if you can't remember or understand this stuff at once. For now, it is sufficient to create just one command. For the myFirstVM virtual machine, we're gonna implement the print hello world action. This action doesn't really do anything with the machine, it just prints out the message to the stdout. Run the script again, and this time we'll see a test and that it has been run successfully. The virtual machine has been also created. We can see that with taking a look at the Virtual Manager control panel. If we power on the machine, we'll see the Ubuntu server installation being started from the installation image we've specified in the declaration. We can go to the settings menu and make sure that the ISO image was actually mounted in the CD-ROM. Now let's move on to the second way to create a virtual machine in Testo Framework, based on an existing one. How can it be done? Well, to be honest, in Testo-lang you can't import a whole virtual machine into your test script, but you can import a virtual disk. Let's consider an example. Earlier, I created a handmade virtual machine and installed Windows 7 operating system on it. Let's boot it up. Now we're going to create a folder on the desktop. We're going to pretend that this way we're doing a handmade machine setup. So let's consider the handmade machine to be in the state we want it to be, and now we want to import it into the test script. So we're shutting down the machine, and going into its settings menu. Here we search for the virtual disk settings and check the path to the image file. Let's copy this path to the clipboard. Then we go back to the test script and replace the size attribute for the main disk with the source attribute. Its value is going to be the path we've copied from the settings. The source attribute instructs Testo to create not a blank empty disk, but a copy of an existing one. The ISO attribute has no need for us now. Since the operating system is already installed, we doesn't need anything mounted in the CD-ROM. Let's also rename the machine, so we won't get confused. Run the script and we'll see the test to be complete, although creating the machine can take some time because of the virtual disk's copying. Go into Virtual Manager and check that the new machine is actually there. Keep in mind that the old machine didn't go anywhere, even though it wasn't in the test script anymore. Virtual machines don't get deleted by themselves. You need to do it manually, which we'll see in a moment. Let's power on the new virtual machine. Eventually we'll see the already familiar desktop with the new folder on it. This means that the disk import went smoothly. Finally, let me show you how to delete the Testo-created machines. This can be done with the command Testo-clean. You will be informed about all the entries you're about to erase. You need to confirm the choice. Keep in mind that your manually created machines will stay intact. The handmade machine didn't go anywhere. As the last thing in this guide, let's take a look at the combined way to create a machine. You can create a machine with multiple disks in it. Some disks can be blank, while the rest imported ones. In script, this will look somewhat like this. As I said, it's quite a rare case. This concludes this video guide. Now you know how to create a virtual machine. In the future guides we'll learn how to do various actions with them. For now, thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you later.